folks. It's been a while since I did a BatRep, so I thought I'd post one today. Probably a bunch of separate videos, and I'll put them all together at the end once the battle's over. But yeah, so stay tuned today. I'll have a bunch of videos. You can follow me as I go through this battle. Anyway, it's Black Powder, Napoleonics. It's the French with their Saxon allies going against the Russians. Should be kind of interesting. And this is the Cigar Box Mixed Terrain battle map, which looks fantastic. I really like it. I like the brown texturing going on. There's lots of different greens and browns and earthy tones. And of course there's no imprints of roads or woods or anything like that on it, so you can pretty much use it any way you want. In this case I'm putting the hills and stuff on top of the mat, and I usually put them underneath, but today I'm going to put them on top so they can show up better in a video. I got a field and a burning village up here. And got this nice road going on here, and a couple more little high ground points. Yeah, next video I'll show you the deployments and the various situations and objectives for this scenario. So stay tuned, folks. Part 1 is coming up soon. Hope you enjoy. Hey folks, let's look at the objectives and what this scenario is all about in this game. First of all, if you look up to the top here, right there, that's indicates the north edge. So when you hear me talking about east and south and west, you'll know that it's in relation to this little icon here, that red chip, which is the north side of the battlefield. Now basically there's two objectives. Let me zoom in here so you can see what I'm talking about. Right in there we have two objectives. One is this burning village right here. You can see the dark brown felt. It's about that big in size. That's the burning village. The other objective is this hill, which is indicated over here with this little red chip on top of it. So this entire hill is an objective as well. Two objectives in this scenario. Now, the French are basically in control of the village, at least currently, and to win this game, the French, with their Saxon allies, have to maintain control of this village. The hill doesn't really matter. They've pretty much abandoned that position already, but the village is important. And they basically have to hold on to this for the remainder of the game. And to win, they're going to have to break the Russian army while holding on to this objective. So that's how they win this battle. Hold this village and break the Russians. Now the Russians, on the other hand, they are the attackers, the aggressor in this scenario. And they'll be coming on from the east edge, which is here. And they're already deployed, and I'll go into that in the next video. But their objectives to win this battle is to control both the village and this hill. Now, in order to do that, they have to have a unit, a friendly unit, within 6 centimeters of that hill or village, and no enemy also within 6 centimeters of that hill or village. That gives them total control of the objective, and if they can hold on to both objectives for 2 consecutive turns in a row, they will secure a victory. So, yeah. Get within 6 centimeters of this village, get within 6 centimeters of this hill. And of course, there could be no French or Saxons also within 6 centimeters of the hill or village. So that's how they win. Of course, they could also win by breaking the French-Saxon army as well. So we'll see if that happens. But yeah, those are the objectives to the scenario. Now, in the next part of the video, I'm going to actually go through our deployments of our forces and our little cast of generals commanding these brigades. So stay tuned for that, folks. Let me zoom out here one more time so you can get an idea of the battlefield. Again, the Russians are already deployed. You can see they have a force up here, which I will go into. 2 more brigades down here. The French are coming up this road, and also on this road. They have a little regiment of cav right there. And of course they have their Saxon allies holding this objective from the get-go. Okay folks, stay tuned for the next part. We're going to go into the armies. Hey folks, let's get into the deployments, and we'll start off with the French. Let's see if I can speed through this. A good place to start is right here at this objective at the village, where the Saxons are holding a nice defensive position. Basically this brigade of Saxons is made up of 3 battalions of infantry, which you can see are right here. 1 in the Salt column, 2 in line formation, and they have a battery of foot guns here on the flank. In addition, they are commanded by Prinz d'Alba, who's located right here. He's a renowned Saxon commander. So yeah, they're in a defensive position and they're holding out. Now, as Saxons, they are not going to be allowed to use the mixed formation. In addition, I am counting them as militia, so they're basically unreliable. Nonetheless, they hold the position. Let's see. Now, over here, we have our second French brigade, and this one is made up of cavalry. And we have a unit of hussar here, a second unit of hussar, and a third unit of hussar way down here, basically protecting the flank of these infantry, which I will get into later. But anyway, these are under the command of General Gerard, and currently the only regiment on the table that will be able to move from the get-go is this one way down here. Now, these two regiments are basically here, and that's where they're going to be moving from, but not until turn 2. They're basically frozen in place for a turn before they can start moving. So imagine them moving up the road yet during the first turn of the battle. So they can't move yet. And as hussars, they're basically light cavalry, and they have the marauder's special ability. So that's them. Now, finally, the 3rd Brigade is way down here in the end. Let's make sure this is focused. Let me get in down there. Now, this is the main unit of this division, which is the 4th Division, under General Stefan, which some tabletop commanders might recognize as Stefan. But yeah, he commands not only the division, but he also commands this brigade of line infantry. And it's made up of 6 battalions of French line infantry. They can use the mixed formation rule, and they're basically line infantry. Outside of that, nothing really special. But they are the main force. Now, one thing about these guys, that like the hussars under General Gerard, these units are frozen, but they're frozen for 2 turns. They cannot move until turn 3. So again, imagine these guys still moving up this road before they can get to their current location and start deploying for battle. So they're basically frozen for 2 turns. So that's the French so far. It's the 4th Division. They're trying to secure this position here, currently held by the Saxons, in anticipation of an afternoon assault going on elsewhere in the battlefield. Again, imagine a large battle taking place here, and this is only one small part of that battle. And currently, this area right in here is pretty important to the French, because they're planning an assault later in the day from this location. So they did not expect the Russians to be coming in here from the east, and we're going to go into their deployments next. Okay, folks. Now let's take a look at the Russians and see what they're going to throw at the French in this battle. Might as well start up here near the south, where we got the first Russian units that are probably going to get engaged in the battle quite quickly. We have a brigade of 3 battalions of musketeers and a battery of foot, and they are led by a General Babinski, pretty renowned for taking on Germans in the past. We'll see how well he does against these Saxons. But earlier in the day, during this same battle, his brigade was reduced in strength after fighting against these Saxons. And he has since gathered his forces, and he's mustered 3 battalions. And once again, he's heading towards the position held by the Saxons. We'll see how good old Babinski can do in this little battle. Supporting him are other elements of the 12th Russian Division. I should point that out. Way down there on the far end, let me zoom in, we have 2 regiments of Cav. We got the Glukov Cuirassier and the Azum Hussar, and they are under command of a general of Scottish descent named General James Mack. And if you know him in the past, he was quite renowned for leading a cavalry charge that almost managed to capture Ney himself at a battle near Sippett's Bridge. But yeah, he's since gathered his forces, and at this point his brigade is only 2 regiments in strength. We'll see what he can do in this battle. Finally, we have the 12th Division commander himself in charge of a brigade of infantry. We have 2 battalions of musketeers flanked by 2 battalions of grenadiers. So basically that's the spearhead of the Russian force, and they're also supported by a battery of cannon right there, foot guns, and they are led by General Ian Towski, who is also in charge of this division. So we'll see how good that works for the Russians. One thing I should point out is that for the Russians, the infantry, they will not be allowed to use the mixed formation, much like the Saxons won't be able to, except the Grenadiers. The Grenadiers will be able to use mixed formation, which basically means they can use skirmishers. And if you look there, you'll see I have them deployed with their skirmishers in assault column. So there they are, folks, and they're all deployed. They're going to be able to move from turn 1, the entire Russian force. So there we go, folks. That's 3 brigades against 3 brigades. Should be an interesting battle. We'll see how it goes, if they can capture this village from the Saxons. There you go, folks. That's the deployment. That's the objectives. Let's get a little close-up here. Of course, here we have the French Hussars. General Gerard in the lead there. He's not on the table, of course, but he will be on turn 2, beginning of turn 2. He does have this regiment on the table, however. They will be able to move in the first turn, out of command, of course. And of course, here's General Stefan, in charge of the French defense, and also in charge of this brigade of French line infantry, fresh from the fields of fighting with the Germans. Blucher himself, I believe, quite successfully. And of course, over here we got our Scottish cavalry general, almost single-handedly captured Ney. And we've got Ian Towski, command of the 12th Russian Division. And this brigade right here, made up of the bulk of the infantry for the Russians, and a battery of guns. And one thing I didn't mention that I probably should is that all the Russian infantry, grenadiers and the musketeers, do have the steady trait. So they're going to automatically pass their first break test. There's Babinski leading his brigade. And of course, Prince Alba and his nasty Saxons. There they are deployed, folks. Alright, folks, we're getting ready to start this battle. Stay tuned for the next part because it will be turn 1. Let's see what happens. Okay, folks, got turn 1 underway. The Russians pretty much moved up without a hitch. You can see Babinski's battalion moved up. He did manage to issue some fire with his lead battalions on the Saxons that were occupying this hill, which is now vacated. The Saxons were pushed back. They are not disordered, but they have taken a casualty, as you can see with that red dice. So Prince Alba's getting a little defensive there, pulling his troops out of musket range. Over here, Yantowski's brigade moved up. No problems. He's got the grenadiers on the flank, of course, with the skirmishers deployed. His musketeer units advanced, and we do have some musketry exchanging going on up here, as you can see. And the only result of that is that the Russians did take some disorder in this unit here. That's indicated with that little tuft of smoke inside the unit. Saxon artillery also fired, and that's about it. Saxons are pretty much holding their position there, except for that hill that they abandoned. Down here, Yantowski's got a battery of foot guns that did not manage to get to the top of that hill, which is where they were trying to get. They're still basically limbered. Down here, General James Mack's cavalry. He's got the cuirassier up here. They tried to get up here behind this hill. That's the cuirassier right there. Trying to get behind this hill. Hussars are trying to get up this way, maybe cause a little flanking action. But they didn't get far. Basically, only one move for each, so kind of slow getting off the mark. Outside of that, the French, General Gerard's Hussars up there, they're on the table. Filled their command role and did nothing, so they're just basically holding their position until Gerard gets on the table, I would imagine. So that's the situation, folks. Turn 1. So far, nothing major is happening. Saxons are holding their ground. See, turn 2's coming up. We got the Hussars should be coming onto the board fully this turn for the French, so we'll see if that makes any difference, if they can help the Saxons out against these Russians. Okay, folks, turn complete, folks. Let's see what's going on. Well, starting over here, Babinski's brigade is moving forward, as you predicted. He's got 2 lead battalions that have changed to line formation, engaging in some long-range musketry fire with the Saxons. One of his units has become disordered. He did limber his battery of guns to get into a better position of firing. However, over on this side, towards the center, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of musketry and cannon fire going on here. Saxons are disordered. Right here in this unit of Russians is also disordered. All the result of close-range musketry and cannon fire. Remember, Saxons do have that battery of foot guns right here. And this is all close range for everybody. And the result of that was this unit right here in particular for the Russians is now shaken. It's at 3, which is its maximum stamina. Did not have to take a break test, though. Was not exceeded. Yeah, they are in formation. They were back here. This unit was disordered. Couldn't really do much except do some shooting. That's about it. This unit of Saxons, by the way, is behind some hedges, so they do have cover, which is helping them. They've got 1 casualty so far, and they're disordered. And unfortunately for Ian Towski, his brigade here, they could not get their grenadiers forward. The only thing that did move forward was that unit right here, which changed into line formation. That was about it. Still got his limbered guns back here, so the advance of the Russians is kind of getting flustered by bad command rolls. Yeah, their command structure is not working out too well. And by the way, for the Russians, Ian Towski is ranked as an 8 command value, and the other 2 brigade commanders are 7s. I believe, yeah. Down here, our cavalry brigade, under the command of James Mack, have still not got off the mark there. They're still lingering. They basically failed their roles, unfortunately. So that was pretty much the Russians. Now the French, on the other hand, they had a little bit better success, I think. They did manage to get their cavalry under Gerard into action. They moved off the road. There's Gerard himself up here, leading some hussars up towards this hill. This unit over here did get off the mark as well. And the 3rd unit of hussars is over here. Looks like they're trying to make a little flanking move on the advancing Russians of Babinski. So let's see what happens there. So yeah, that's 2 turns, folks. It looks like the French position is stabilizing, and the advance of the Russians is kind of faltering slightly. There is some confusion in the orders, I think. Next turn, we'll see the arrival of General Stefan and his brigade coming up the road this way. So that's going to really make this game intense. The Russians have to do something quickly before those French reinforcements arrive. Okay, folks, that's it. We're going into turn 3. Turn 3, basically a continuation of the bloodshed, particularly in the middle there. Let's start over here with Babinski's brigade, again moving forward. Ever so slowly, because the Saxons are really holding on to this ground up here. They haven't given. Although this battalion is disordered and is shaken. So this doesn't look too good for this position for the Saxons. The Russians are pressing forward with very little damage to their battalions now. So they're getting things going. Although this battery all by itself is still limbered sitting there. Towards the middle, again, we got lots of carnage going on here. Close range musketry and cannon fire. The Saxons are starting to get worn here. They got their artillery battery up here, and this unit of infantry are both disordered, as you can see by the smoke on top of their units. And they both each taken 1 hit. So although they're not shaken yet, they are disordered. So there's not much they can do except sit there and fire. In the meantime, the Russians are pressing forward. They got 2 infantry musketeer battalions in line, pressing forward, both of which are now disordered. This one here is also shaken. It's got 3 hits. So that's not good. He's trying to pull that one back, and it's not too effective at the moment. Not as long as it's disordered. And of course, there's Ian Towski himself. The 2 grenadier battalions flanking the position, one over here on the hill and one over here. They continue to press forward as well. Skirmishers deployed, and they're in attack column. I'm not sure if they're going to make a go at the artillery and try and outflank the enemy position or what. I don't know. One situation that did occur is up on this hill. He finally got his artillery up on that hill, the crest of the hill, unlimbered, and let fly some very effective fire on Gerard's cavalry. course, is General Gerard. His regiment there got pounded and basically shaken and were forced to withdraw from the road. They did enter and they came up as far as here, and I don't know why they pressed so far ahead, but they paid for it. The artillery pummeled them pretty good and he withdrew them. So I'm thinking he's going to be trying to rally that unit of Hussar. We'll see. And more trouble for the Russians down here. I don't know what it is, but General James Mack, our Scottish general working for the Russians at this point, is not able to get his cavalry in position quick enough. He's got the cuirassier here and he's got the Hussar right there, and just not getting his troops into action quick enough. In the meantime, finally, the French have managed to get their division commander, General Stephan, into action, and he's moving forward along the road with his 6 battalions of line infantry and battery of foot guns. They're trudging along ever so slowly along this road. They did deploy a battalion in line to kind of protect their flanks as they advance, basically to support these Hussar as well, which is part of Gerard's brigade. But Gerard's cavalry has yet to do anything effective right now. I guess he's kind of holding back in a defensive position there till the infantry can get into a closer position on the hill, if not the village itself. And of course over here on this flank there's a 3rd unit of Gerard's brigade of Hussars, which has managed to put itself in pretty much a good position on the flank of the Russians. Babinski's brigade over here. So we'll see what they do with that. So basically the French cavalry scattered all across the table. The Saxons are holding their ground, although it's getting close at this point. The Russians continue to press forward, and they have 2 fresh units of grenadiers coming over here on this position, which are going to be in a good situation, maybe to hold off those French infantry. I don't know. So if they can take this village and hold it for 2 turns, you know, the Russians are going to win this battle in quick order. And I don't know what's up with the Russian cavalry. They're just not on their mark today. We'll see what happens in the future turns. But that's the situation, folks. That's where we're at. Turn 4 is coming up. Okay, folks, just finished turn 4 for the Russians. I still got to do the French yet. Things are heating up, so I thought I'd show the results of the French attacks this turn. Basically, Babinski here did manage to get this battery unlimbered and took a shot at these Hussars on the flank, and pretty ineffective. No big deal there. He also managed to assault this Saxon position. This unit that was up here that is now gone was close assaulted by his lead battalions. Engaged in close combat, and it was supported by a rear unit here, and yeah, they routed that unit of Saxons. They're gone. You can see back there, they're got them in display there where they're running for their lives. So that's 1 unit down. Prince Alba himself was almost run down and captured, but unfortunately there's a unit of Saxons right here, which he joined up with. So right now there's this unit back there, and this unit over here of Saxons remaining. So yes, friends, Babinski has some success on the right flank of the Saxon position. All they have to do is deal with these Hussars over here. See what happens with that. But the objective is now contested fully. If they can just take out these Saxon units and keep the French at bay, they will win this game if they hold out for 2 turns in control of that village. In the meantime, let's go to the center here. There was also a close assault on the right flank over here with the Grenadiers, the Russian Grenadiers. They assaulted the Saxon battery of guns, defeated it, and broke through. So both these units of Grenadiers are now no enemies in front of them. They're right in a position to envelop the Saxons. The only thing in their way is this unit of Saxon infantry right here. These 2 units of Russians are both disordered. This one is shaken, in fact, so got to do something about that. So yeah, that's the situation there on that flank. Down here on the Russian right wing, where the cavalry are located, once again, General James Mack failed to get his cavalry into action. I don't know what's going on, but he cannot get these guys forward into action against the advancing French. Not even against these Hussars right there. So it's just not working out. One good thing, though, you'll see these French hussars right there. They did get disordered and take some losses. 2 hits, in fact. Their stamina is 3, so they're almost shaken. And the result of that is this battery of guns on the hill managed to about face and take some shots at them. Yeah, so those hussars took some damage there from that cannon on that high hilltop. And that's from Ian Towski's brigade, so the general of this division. Yeah, so that's the situation. So Ian Towski and Babinski are having success here, taking on the Saxons and throwing them back. Still got to figure out what I'm going to do with the French, but one other thing that did happen. If you remember, General Gerard was located up here in this position, and he took some fire from some artillery and pulled himself back because his unit was shaken, his unit of hussars that he's with currently. But unfortunately, the assault of the Russian grenadiers here brought them within musketry range. They did take some shots at General Gerard's unit and managed to break them. And of course, General Gerard was with the unit, and he was carried off with the fleeing hussars. So unfortunately, General Gerard is now out of action, and he's back here. But he still has 2 units of hussars on the tabletop, no longer under his command because he's not on the field now. So it's going to be up to General Stefan to take command of these hussars if he's going to be any successful in this battle. We'll see what happens. But yeah, the French are next. Turn 4 for the French. Let's see if they can do something about this. And again, this objective, this main objective, is now contested. And I should also point out that this objective on the hill is firmly in Russian control, which is required for the Russians to win. Okay, folks, let's see what happens in the next turn. Okay, I just finished the French turn 4, so they're all done. Not much to do, really. I started off with the Saxons up in here. And they basically, this battalion back here, where Alba is located. He's not with the unit, but he's close by. They shifted their formation around. They're in a line now, and they opened up on this unit right here and shot him in the rear. They managed to put down a little casualty on him, so that's good. And I also fired with this unit of infantry down here, shot on this one here, and put a casualty down as well. Neither one is disordered, so there you go. And that's about it. Just basically adjusted their positioning and did some musketry fire. And that's about it. So they're still holding on, folks. And down here, the French didn't do as much, actually. Let me get in position. Looks like there's a haze over the battlefield down here. It's kind of cool. The French really didn't advance too far this turn. It's an unusual situation. We got General Stefan, who's basically a brigadier commander. He's in charge of that brigade of 6 line infantry units and a battery of guns. But he's also in charge of this division. In other words, he's the army general. Since General Gerard, who was the brigadier of the cavalry brigade in this battle, since he was, basically left the battlefield, he's gone, it also means that Stefan is also in charge of the 2 remaining French hussar units on the tabletop. So he's got quite a few units to manage. So I saved him for last, giving out orders. So if he failed, at least I did something with the Saxons. So that's what I did. And unfortunately, only 2 units of his infantry didn't move forward on the road. I was doing individual unit activations, issuing individual orders, basically, because I'm not sure how I'm going to get these guys deployed. These cavalry are a threat. I don't like them there. The hussar unit right here is got 2 hits on it already, and it's disordered. That'll be lifted at the end of this turn, which is right now, basically. But basically, anyway, Stefan moved up the road, still in march columns, which is pretty vulnerable against the artillery, the Russian artillery on the hill. That could be an issue for enfilade purposes. We'll see. We'll get into that. But yeah, folks, that's the situation. The French really didn't do much this turn. They're still holding on to this village. and they're slowly moving forward. Hopefully in the next turn they could get a little farther ahead. We'll see, folks. Russian turn 5 is coming up. Folks, I just finished Russian turn 5. Still have the French to go. But it's getting pretty intense. Basically what the Russians did, they did over here, Babinski's brigade is totally in action. They did manage to get their 2 battalions lined up just right here, just linked up, and they put down some heavy musketry fire on this unit of French hussars, and it's now disordered. This artillery battery also put down some fire on the hussars, so not too bad. The hussars didn't take any hits, but they are disordered. What else did they do? Over here there was a melee. This battalion of Russians did charge into Alba's flank battalion here, which he was present with, and it was a pretty bad result for the Saxons. They were forced to retire, and they're shaken at this point, whereas the Russians just basically moved forward. They're on the edge of the rough ground here, which is a field. So that's as far as the Saxons retired, and they're still holding their position, but they are shaken, and the Russians took a hit, and that's about it. Over here there was also another melee. Let me zoom in a little bit. The Saxons held their ground. They did withstand an assault, a frontal assault from this unit right here, which became disordered and shaken, was forced to retire, and this is its current position now. So the Saxons held their ground, but they also became shaken. They're not disordered, but they are shaken. So the Russians right in this area have 2 shaken units. Not too good for the Russians in Yantowski's brigade. But they are having a lot of success over here on this side, thanks to Babinski's aggressiveness. So that's about it. That's what's going on here. The Saxons are still contesting that village, so the Russians don't have it yet. Remember, the Russians have to have it uncontested for 2 turns, while controlling that hill as well, which is quite challenging. It's more challenging than you think. The Russians also, Yantowski's brigade, moved up some of his grenadiers up here, formed a line, possibly to meet whatever's coming up that road, which is General Stephan's French, slowly moving forward in their columns. I should also point out down here in this situation, there is a unit, a battalion of grenadiers, which ponderously crossed that hedge there. They have 1 hit currently, but they did cross this hedge, and they are in the muddy field directly behind both Saxon defending units. So it's a pretty tight situation for the Saxons. They are basically enveloped. They are surrounded. So we'll see what they can do in the next turn. So yeah, Russians are putting a lot of pressure on it, and they're stabilizing their position here on the high ground. They have to control that hill, remember, to win the game, not just the village. The cavalry, once again, have done absolutely nothing. I don't know what's going on down here. There's, I guess maybe General James Mack is drunk or something. I don't know. I can't explain it, but they're not taking action. They're holding their position. I'm sure he'll be quite reprimanded by Yantowski for this type of behavior. But anyway, the French are still in their current position. I haven't moved them yet. Hussars are no longer disordered, of course. They did take some artillery fire and were forced to make a break test. They are at 3 hits, so they're shaken at the moment. So that's that situation. These artillery are really becoming quite devastating to the French. That high ground is really a useful position to be in. So yep, that's it. That's the Russians. The French are up. The next turn, we'll see what happens and what they can do. Hopefully, Stephan can get some of his French troops deployed in the battle formation and engage the enemy up here. At least maybe take that hill position. I don't know. We'll see, folks. French turn 5 is just finished turn 5 for the French. Take a look and see what's going on. Started off with the Saxons. Basically, they can't do anything. I don't think they were disordered, no, but they're shaken, so they really can't do much. So there's no room in there either, so they just basically sat in place and used some musketry fire, which was pretty much ineffective. I think they did manage to disorder this unit over here of Russians, and that's about it. Yeah, that was from this unit. They're shaken. They're bad shape, them Saxons, but they couldn't do much this turn. So it doesn't look good for them, actually, since these Grenadiers are right behind both units of Saxons. So that doesn't look good. And nothing went on up here except the Hussars went off their disorder. Both these Russian units are both disordered and shaken. The ones in the middle here. Down here, on the other hand, we had some bad luck with the French because there was a blunder on his first command. And basically, he was trying to move his columns forward, this one right here, in fact, and they rolled a charge the nearest enemy, which was the Hussars over here. There, these guys right here. So in march column, they made a charge move. Now, I know they can't charge when they're in march column, but I allowed them to do so. So it was only one move distance, which put them there. So I left them in their march column, and there they are, a little overeager. Or perhaps they just marched in the wrong direction. I don't know, but that's where their commander took them. And that ended the French orders, and that was it. Shooting was relatively ineffective. This unit here opened fire on the Hussars as well, which these Hussars are disordered. That's about it. So folks, that's it for the French. It's not looking exactly perfect for the French. So let's speed on ahead and get to the next turn. Turn 6 for the Russians, folks. Okay, Russian turn 6 is complete. Pretty eventful, actually. Starting over here, Babinski's brigade, doing pretty good. They continued to lay down a heavy fire on these Hussars over here with the cannon and their 2 battalions of infantry. Those Hussars are now disordered and are shaken, so it's not going to take long before they're gone. Not good, folks, for the French. Not good at all. Over here, got pretty intense, as to be expected. The Russian Grenadiers, which are located right there currently, did charge that unit that was occupying this hedgerow, the Saxons, and you can see that they're gone now, because now they have been defeated and are broken, and they're running for their lives off the battlefield. The Grenadiers smashed them in the rear, and it was quite bloody. The Grenadiers took a hit for good measure, so otherwise they're in good shape. Again, these 2 units of Russians are still shaken. These little disordered markers will come off when I'm done filming this. These 2 units are engaged. Alba is there, right there with the troops engaged with the Saxons. Both units are shaken. Yeah, and they fought to a draw. So it looks like they're going to go another turn where the objective is contested. So that's what's going, folks. The Saxons are still on the board. They have 1 unit locked in a deadly combat against a Russian musketeer unit. Both units are shaken, and it's getting bloody. And of course, on their rear is these Grenadiers from Iantowski's brigade. So the Russians are pretty beat up, especially over here with Iantowski's force. But otherwise, his Grenadiers are really doing a good job. Down here, more action. The Grenadiers moved up closer to the edge of the hill there and put down some fire on the Hussars that were over here. And as you can see, they are now broken as well and running for their lives. So yeah, that's more French defeated. They're gone, folks. Now, what else happened over here? We did have a blunder on both sides, actually. I think I talked about the French blunder previously, which this unit right here charged forward in a march column, which they can't actually charge with, but I moved them forward anyway, since they couldn't make contact. But General James Mack, his little force of cavalry here, has been doing absolutely atrocious in this battle. The command and controls just really falling apart for the Russian cavalry over here. Originally, what was going to happen is these cuirassiers were going to make a sweeping move around this forest here and maybe threatening the French from the rear. That didn't happen. It was a blunder that was rolled, and instead they just charged over the hill 1 full move distance ahead to this position right there. Yeah, and that's as far as they got. They couldn't make contact with an enemy, so they're about to get shot to pieces by the French now. They're right in range. Let's see what the French do on their next turn. So yeah, folks, a blunder. And yeah, that's about it. Again, this cannon helped put some fire down on those hussars which ran away. So yeah, the cannon gets kudos for this battle. So folks, that's the situation so far. It's not looking good up here. The Saxons are still on the table. They're still on the battlefield. They're holding that objective as long as they can. They are pretty much broken otherwise, as is the French Hussar Brigade, since they're below half strength in units. We'll get into that in the next turn. So there it is, folks. Russians are leading this, I think, so far, but the battle is not over. So here we go. Next turn coming up. Okay, folks, this is the start of the French turn, and unfortunately, the game's over. The battle has concluded. The French have been beaten decisively. They've withdrawn from the battlefield, and the reason for that is because the army morale is broke. They have lost over 50% of their brigades. If we take a look at that, we'll see how that come about. Here in the center, we had 3 units of Saxons in this brigade with some artillery. Now, the artillery doesn't count for breakpoints in this battle. There's just not a hell of a lot of it. So the Saxon brigade was broken. It has 1 unit remaining on the table out of 3 infantry units, and it's shaken, basically. So there's nothing left. That brigade is broken. The Saxons were broken. Also, their 2nd brigade of French, which was the Hussar, they are broken. They only have 1 unit remaining on the table, and it is shaken. They had 3 to begin with. So that's 2 of the 3 brigades in the French army broken, which effectively means that the French army is broken. Stéphane's brigade, 6th Line Infantry, and a battery of guns is in pretty good shape. They're still moving up into position, but unfortunately word just reached Stéphane. The Saxons have been defeated, and the Hussars have routed from the battlefield. All is lost indeed. The Russians have carried the day. And that's the situation, folks. Now, I will say that I probably let this battle go a turn more than it probably should have, because I believe that there's a couple situations, actually, and I'll get into that. And it was all here. And I'd have to go back in the videos to be sure about this, but I'm pretty sure that Ian Towski's brigade, which is down here, and he was the army general, I'm pretty sure his brigade was in fact broken before they were able to assault with the grenadiers the Saxon position. And the reason for that is there was 4 units of infantry, and half of them, these 2 units of musketeers, were shaken. So that brigade is broken. So therefore it could not have assaulted in close combat with its 2 fresh grenadier battalions, which were over here. One is currently right here, and did get into close combat with the Saxons holding this hedge line. That should not have happened because this brigade was broken. So that kind of changed things a little bit. This assault never happened. So what probably would have happened, they would have pulled back from this area, or at least maintained some proximity to the objective, just to hold on to it. But this close assault against the Saxons would have never happened. However, for the Saxon side, they would have been broken as well, because I believe in the previous turn, both of these 2 Saxon units, the one at the hedge, which is now routed, and this one still standing its ground, currently in combat, I believe they were both shaken as well during that turn, at the start of their turn, which means they would have broken as well and pulled back from this objective. Being close to 12 centimeters of an enemy means they got to pull back, they got to retire, which would have taken them away from this objective. However, so basically a lot of this action here would not have happened. The Saxons would have pulled back. The Russians would have either pulled back or held their position close to the objective. This fighting would not have taken place. In addition, over here, Babinski's brigade was pretty much in great shape, had no problems advancing, taking out the Saxons that were holding this side of the village. They had a nice defensive line set up, holding off the Hussars. Yeah, they did a great job, and they did actually get into close assault against some of the Saxon infantry over here. So that would have happened. They're in good shape. They're not a broken brigade. So this would have happened. Pretty confident that the Russians, regardless, would have taken this objective without a doubt. At least the French, or the Saxons, would have been retired from this area of the battlefield. So the Russians would have secured this. Yeah, that's the main thing. But I let it carry into another turn just to see what happens. So that's all fine. It also means that these grenadiers, which are part of Iantowski's brigade over here, because it was broken in the previous turn, would not have been able to move up to this hill, taking up a position to issue fire against the French hussars that were also shaken over here. And eventually led to the hussars being broken. That probably would not have happened either. However, the Russians did have this artillery, which is quite effective, pounding those hussars, and eventually the hussars were routed regardless. So I don't think anything would have changed over here. The net effect is that for the French, they would have had 2 brigades broke out of their 3. If not in the previous turn, definitely in this turn. And the Russians would have had the 1 brigade broke, Iantowski's brigade. And that's about it. They still would have had 2 more brigades still effectively fighting. I don't know what to say about this brigade of cavalry for the Russians. They did have a blunder. Their command rolls were atrocious, could not get off the mark and do what needed to be done. But they did prove to be a threat. Distracted some of the French units. I wouldn't say slowing the French units. The French basically just couldn't move forward themselves. They were just completely lost when it come to moving forward. Again, blunders and bad command rolls. Yeah, so that's the battle, my friends. Stefan withdrew from the battlefield. The French failed to secure this area of the battle, and that's that. So it was a really fun game. I enjoyed it. Black Powder, it's highly recommended. It's a really fun game, I have to say. It's got a lot of tactical feel to it. So, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Played it in 10 mil using 15 millimeter scale distances. So I use centimeters instead of inches, which works exceedingly well, especially on a 6x4 table. So it was fantastic. Alright folks, I hope you enjoyed this. It was fun. It was a 6-turn battle, probably 5 turns realistically. The French were soundly defeated. I don't think it was terribly unbalanced for the French. I mean, it was going to be hard for the French, but everything for their success relied on their hussar getting into position, outflanking the Russians over here behind the village, distracting the onslaught of the Russians, and that never happened. The hussars were not going to be effective in close combat against these infantry. It just wasn't going to happen. They couldn't frontally assault them, that's for sure. But they could use their maneuverability, maybe secure this hill, maybe get around the flank of the village, you know, harass them, distract them, slow them down, in other words, until the main French columns could get into a position to, at the very least, secure this hill. And, yeah, if they could do that, that would prevent a Russian victory. Yeah, so again, with the scenario victory conditions, the Russians, in order to win, they had to control both objectives, this hill, this village. The French, they started off in control of the village. All they had to do was remain in control of either the village or the hill to get a draw. Now, if they controlled the village, they would get a win. And that's about it. Their condition was pretty difficult. They had to basically break the Russians. Didn't happen. French were broken. Okay, folks. Anyway, good scenario, good fun. I would definitely play Black Powder again, and I intend to. So stay tuned for more on that. I hope you enjoyed. Any questions or comments, leave them in the messages below. Take care.